So you just spoke about mindfulness, and yesterday since we're now in this transition of we're expecting to potentially be going back to work soon, last night I was getting ready for my yoga session, which, if you know me, that is not something that you would ever think that would hear from out of my mouth. But this is it's like 6 stretch positions. You lay there for like 10 minutes in each position. She's talking to you. She's letting you know that everything's okay. You think of how you felt throughout the day, and it's basically just letting all of that go. And I probably wouldn't have been able to do that 2 years ago. I would have been just all stressed about my thoughts and, I shouldn't be thinking this. And then I'm thinking, I should be paying attention to my breath. I should be paying attention to my body. This is a really stressful environment. But I'm now at that stage now where I understand mindfulness so much more, and I'm so much more, I allow myself to have these moments because I realize that it's not about thinking one way. It's just being conscious of your thoughts and where you're at, whether you're paying attention to your mind or your body. So I've been able to actually really appreciate that over the last 3 or so weeks. And last night when I was preparing for it, I thought, I just feel really relaxed right now. I don't feel any stress. And I realized it's because I didn't have this anxiety of I need to be up at a certain time tomorrow to get to work. Like, I don't have to be so conscious of my alarm and what time I'm setting my alarm and checking how many hours that's going to give me to go to sleep. I can actually enjoy this moment right now because of that, which made me think about how much rest do I normally get. And if anything, this pandemic right now, I think said to you at the beginning, because we were both pretty ill at the beginning. So it made us pretty much just be bedbound. I was ill. I was forced to rest instead of actually putting my mind at rest by myself and making myself do it. And for the first time in years, I was able to just accept that it was okay just to lie horizontal, watch movies and just be guilt-free, because I just needed to let my body do its thing to get me healthy again. So I've been kinder with myself in that sense. Like over the last 10 weeks, I've allowed myself just to, look, if you just want to lie down and scroll on your phone, fine. If you want to just watch a movie, fine. But then it kind of links back to the coffees, the domino effect. If I allow myself to do something once, I then slip up the next time. And then before I know it, I've done it a lot more than I ever meant to in the beginning. And it's not become a treat. It's not a treat anymore. It's become part of my routine, which I don't necessarily like, but I've got to find that balance of that treat that I allow myself to allow it once a week, to allow it twice a week. And that's the cutoff point, rather than becoming addicted to it. Same with food. We become addicted to the food. We like it. Before we know it, we're obese and we've got however many health issues because we've not looked at the process of it. We've looked at the outcome and how we feel about the outcome. And last night I thought, how do I feel about going back to work? And I keep saying that I'm going to be so much stricter with the amount of time that I allow myself to have off, because I need it, because I shouldn't be working 24/7. And I always thought, whilst I was working, I always thought, well, I'm allowing myself to have some rest. I'm taking an afternoon off, an evening off, and maybe really it would just be an afternoon off, 2 afternoons off in a week, I'd probably say. And to me, I was kind of like, well, yeah, well, I've got the afternoons off. That's absolutely fine. But it never allowed me, even on that Saturday afternoon, evening, I knew I was conscious. I still had that session to get to Sunday morning as well. So I never experienced what I experienced last night, because I still always have that alarm set. And I really hope that this allows me to make sure I always take one day off. I would love to say 2, but it's incredible how guilty I feel even saying that. For me telling you I want to take time off work, it's not even rest. If I say time off work, I feel like I'm falling behind. I'm not fulfilling my duties as a PT, as an employee. And I've always been like that. But I need it. I feel like I'm skiving if I tell you that I need to have 2 days off, which is ridiculous, because for the regular person that works a Monday 9 to 5 job, 2 days off is something that they've had all their life. I've never had that in any job that I've had. I've never had a weekend. Bank holidays have never been a thing for me. So I'm just used to just forever rolling and rolling and rolling, and just accepting that an afternoon is like a good amount of time to have off, and it's not. Do you think, because I know that you're the same, we connect on so many levels, and I know this is one thing that we connect on. Do you think you're going to be better at resting and taking time off? And I mean, I know you go to the gym on the weekend, even though it's your day off, you'll still go to the workplace and still work out. For me, that's still not a day off, because you're still in the same environment that you're in when you are working.
Yep, that is 100% true. You and I are the same person on that front. My first year at Equinox, 7 days a week, minimum 10 hours a day, like no problems. But I was building something. I was trying to become a better trainer. I was trying to build my business. I wanted to be there. Part of me wanted to be there because I enjoy it and I love being there because of the environment and the people. And I finally felt like I had a place that, you know, I fitted in with all the other jobs I've had. I've never had that. To your point, knowing that I've got to be stricter on my time and more protective of my time, that if I'm going to be in the gym, these are my hours. This is my time to train. And when I train, like I've said to you, I've switched off my phone. I've switched my phone into flight mode recently when I train. So I now no longer have any other distractions. Stuff like that is something that I'm going to carry on doing when we come back. I'm definitely going to be a lot more aware of what times I've come in and what times I leave. Because if I'm going to be up at 6 a.m. every day, starting work at 6 a.m. every day, should I be starting work at 6 a.m. every day? Is it possible for me to come in, do a 13-hour day and leave around 7, maybe even 8? Because what is that doing for me? What does that then mean I'm able to do for my team and the other managers in the club? And how am I able to serve my clients? Like, I'm in the service industry. You know me as the kind of person that I am. I'm very service driven. Like, I always look to help.
Everything else but yourself just then.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, the realization is that I need to pull back a little bit to feed and fuel me mentally, emotionally, physically, in order for me to be able to do all the stuff that I love doing, which is training clients, working with you guys, doing my job. I think it's...
How are you going to say no to
understanding that it's okay to set boundaries.
Yeah.
And that boundaries mean like setting boundaries for yourself as well as for others, in the sense that it's to protect yourself, because what good will you do a client in a session if it's the last session on a Friday night, and you are 12 weeks of 8 to 13-hour days. You're tired, you haven't had a day off, you haven't had a break like properly, you haven't even taken a weekend off, you've worked every day for 12 weeks. That last session on a Friday may be the breaking point. You might miss something, you might switch off and the client could hurt themselves, or you might give a bit of misinformation to a client, or even worse, you might hurt yourself. You know, and as a repercussion of that, what good are you then? You know, you've maybe made a misstatement to a client because you weren't concentrating, because you were so run down. And well, the client believed you and trusted you, and like, well, now you change your thought process the next day because you realize what happened. You're like, but you said this, like,
again, we've like put it on him, on the client. No, it's the client will hurt themselves, the client will get misinformed, etc. But what about you?
For clients, I might say, look, my phone, you can contact me here's my phone number, here's my email, you can contact me at any time. But if you do not contact me after 10 p.m. or something, and like, because I won't respond. Or if you do, I won't get back to you. Don't worry, I will get back to you first thing the next day.
I like that.
And then knowing that this is something I've actually thought about doing, and I've been trying to find somewhere ages to do it. Like, I want to start rock climbing.
Oh, I like that. Bouldering or rock climbing?
Bouldering.
Oh, I've been once and I loved it, and I've never been able to go back since because I just haven't had the time to do it. It was so
yeah, and so basically that is going to be my Saturday workout.
Ooh.
Which means that I'm active, I'm doing something different, and it doesn't bring me into the gym. It's my pace. I set the pace. Exactly. It's nothing else. And that's the thing. What we end up doing is life ends up dictating our pace.
Yeah.
Life ends up being able to take over.
Especially
and like you said,
like, because you're working in between clients, it's boom, 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 boom with your clients. And then when they're in the session, you want to make their time the most efficient that you can. So you're running around picking up weights. You're trying to set things up as fast as that you can. If you've got half an hour in between a client, you quickly grab something to eat. So then you're back in to be ready for the session. And before you know it, without even realizing, that's the pace that you're running at. And that goes in every aspect of life. And that's where it goes into this whole rat race. And then one day goes by, the next, and just before you know it, like you said, you've had 12 weeks where you haven't taken any time off, and then you end up exploding. And then that's when this comes into play. If you're starting up, like, what do you think that you have to live that way? Do you think it's better to set so as a PT and someone that's been in the industry for such a long time, do you think for a new PT, do you think it's first and foremost, you should always set your day that you're going to have off and start like that? Or do you think you should start how I started, where it is just 24/7 in the gym, back and forth? Is there an answer? Is there a better answer?
I don't think there is ever a right or wrong answer. I think it comes down to, it depends. It depends on you, if you're happy to do that.
Yeah.
If you're happy to do that and you're not put out by it, you don't start feeling resentment for what you do. You don't start feeling regret on coming into this company or coming into this job or whatever it is you do, or taking on that client or saying yes to that person. Then do whatever makes you happy. Do whatever feels good to you. I know that I would always say, yeah, exactly. And I say this to every single person when they join that gym, whether you've been in the industry, like I've been in the industry now 6 years. It'll be 6 years in August. So Equinox was my first PT job. And so I've only been there. I only know one thing. I know people who have been in the industry longer than me and joined the company after me. But every time that happens, I still put my hand out and I say one thing, like 6 months. 6 months, head down, do what you need to do for you to get to where you want to be. You know, whether that's covering floor shifts, whether that's taking on clients that you don't necessarily think you want to. Like 6 months is a short-term pain for long-term gain.
Yeah.
Thinking of that as an investment in you and your business and what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
You know?
But you've got to be aware, right? Like that comes into like everything. The more conversations I have, it's all about your mentality towards everything. If you think you're strong enough to be able to go 12 weeks without a day off and still be okay physically and mentally, then do it. But if you're someone that gets tipped over the edge easy, or you've never done that before, then you need to ease yourself into it. I think everything, like being aware, like a couple of posts again, being aware of the state that you're in will allow you to develop, be stronger, to move on to the next hurdle. Because if you're not aware, then that's when you get caught up and you're in a tumble dryer that's never going to end.
No, like I definitely agree with you there, 100%.
I want to go, it's not going off on a tangent, but I want to take something else out of what you've just spoken about. You came from what I can only assume was quite a high-end job. So I'm assuming the pay was good, the company was probably decent. Like this is a job that a lot of people would want to get in, probably for the money side of things. Am I right in that? Or Is it?
It was my reason for chasing the industry.
Okay.
It was.
Many people would have stayed in a job that they wouldn't have liked because of it's a path that their family wanted them to take, or it's because of the money, because of the how you're valued as a person. But you ended it. What? How? Why? Know about it? Like that must have been such a massive risk that you took.
There are a few factors. There are a few things. So, firstly, you know a little bit about my history. So all my extreme weight loss and anxiety and depression really came from during that period of my life. So there was a large part of it where I wasn't happy, where I was existing, I wasn't living life. And as a young man as a young person in their mid-20s, where you've moved into London, you're now working for yourself, and you should be able to explore and travel and do things with your friends and really take like ownership of your life. I didn't have it. Second of all, I realized I was a very different person to the people I worked with. I didn't enjoy, like I was one of the boys. Never really got involved in the conversation. I just did my own thing. I'd come to work, I'd train, I'd go home. It was on rotation. Then this was so dry. I was there studying the essentials of strength and conditioning, 3rd edition, at my desk, reading it. And people thought it was just because I was interested in the gym. You know,
yeah.
It wasn't until like one little Trinidadian cleaning lady, she came up to me and was like, are you training to be a doctor or something? Because I had a page open at the heart and the oil ventricles, and we're talking about and it was reading about the electrical signals. And I was like, no, I just want to be a PT. I just want to be I might potentially become a strength coach or something. That was it. Then eventually I left in December, and then
concentrating on a 6-pack wasn't the first thing for you to do as a PT.
Well, I mean, that's why I had all this. I had 3 screens at work, and one screen was dedicated just to me tracking my macros, my programs, whereas the other 2 were Bloomberg News and whatever I needed to do. Like I had that much free time, and I wasn't being productive. I wasn't being of service to the guys around me, apart from when they wanted me to get their lunch and coffee. And I had one guy even asked me to drive his car to the other end of London for a service, and then paid for my taxi back. I was like, okay, but I don't have 2 degrees to my name to do this stuff.
Yeah.
I went to school to do something else, and like I left the industry, knew I was doing this and ventured into it, and mum and dad like supported me the entire time, hesitantly, of course, because there's the worry of like, oh, what's he gonna do? Like, where's he gonna go? I hope he gets something. Yeah, like what's gonna happen? And there was just a hope that obviously something was gonna come my way. And like, I think my dad best summed it up. Like after I joined Equinox, and I think it must have been it was Christmas time, and I'm trying to work out whether it was Christmas 2014, so 4 months after I started, or 16 months after I started, Christmas 2015. I'm sitting around the table, and my family's there, and my dad just turns to me and goes, you may not be the richest man, like you may not make a lot of money from your job, but you are the wealthiest man I know. I was like, oh, thanks, Dad. I think it was some kind of backhanded compliment. And then he just turned to me and he's like, he turned to me and listened, and he was like, listen, I speak to guys you went to school with because they're in finance, and mum and I are still close friends with their parents. Like these are guys I went to school with from like the age of 3 to 13. They all work in finance in some degree, and they hate their jobs.
Yeah.
They're stuck in it because you get caught in a way of life.
Yeah.
You become accustomed to a way of life and a way of living, and then the only way you can maintain that is by working a certain job for a certain pay, whether you enjoy it or not. You're just doing it because you have to.
Love that.
But I was fortunate enough to find something I love doing.
Yeah.
And get someone to pay me for it.
Yeah.
I remember that's probably the first piece of advice my dad ever gave me about work. Find something you love doing and get someone to pay you for it.
So that's
He
how
did.
that's the inevitable. That's how you transferred over. You thought about what you love doing, and then that's what you pursued.
Yeah, my enjoyment was sport and training and putting it towards purpose. I didn't know whether I was going to be a good PT or not. I didn't know how I was going to be as a coach. I just knew that I enjoyed being in that environment with like-minded people.
Do you think you can be ever bad at something that you're passionate about?
No.
Because
Like, I don't think so, because I think if you care enough about something, you care enough to become good at it.
yeah,
Even if it's something that doesn't come naturally to you,
yeah,
you care enough to work for it.
yeah.
Like,
Even that.
take this job. The reason I love what I do is because I love sport.
Yeah.
I was never particularly talented as a chubby kid. You know, I swam, I rowed, I played rugby, I played football. I played it all. My mum threw me in the sports camps all the time. But, you know where my strengths lied, and where I was average. And most sports, I was all right at rugby, and I rowed, I was pretty good. But I trained hard. I turned up to every training session. I know, like, I remember my first team rugby coach at school turned around to me and was just like, you work so hard, but you're never quite there. And I'm like, you just told that inside. He just said that in front of the entire squad.
So bad.
And I was in the second team at the time, and I was in the second team. It was my first year of playing rugby at school. I was in lower sixth. And he said it in front of the entire squad, there were guys who had.
It could spur someone on to be so much better, but to the wrong person, you have just destroyed their confidence and taken all of that away from you.
Yeah, I mean, it became a bit of a running joke with everyone in my team and my mates, and I was like, you know what, I can wear that. The next year, I played every single game, didn't miss a training session in the first team, and he remembered that whole situation, and he was just like, I said it at the right time, you know, and like, I take that forward with me. Like, the reason I do what I do, like, I was never, particularly talented at anything, but I work for what I enjoy. And I think, like you said, if you're passionate enough about something, you'll work hard to become good at it if it doesn't come naturally to you.
Yeah.
Like, say you go down that path, right? You go down that path, it doesn't work out. That door ends up being closed behind you. But when you close one door, you open up another. Excuse me, but if you continue to look at the door that closed and think, what if? You'll never have an opportunity to see what's going to be in front of you. You know?
Yeah.
The idea is that, like, looking behind, like, I could quite gladly look at behind and think, like, oh, what if I'd have done this if I was in finance, or what if I'd done this if I was in law, and not look at not concentrate on my passion and not concentrate on where I'm at now, and I'm constantly looking backwards rather than forwards, or the what ifs and the missing out on things. Oh, I don't earn as much money being a PT as I do my friends in finance, so I can't do this. Like, focusing on the negative things rather than focusing on what my possibilities are.
Well, the things you can achieve when you realize that your own happiness is down to you, when you realize that this situation will be built on how you approach it, your entire life just takes a complete U-turn in, like, a better direction. I remember it's pivotal in your life to realize that, because any situation, if you focus on that, if you understand the benefits from that, you can get through anything, because it's how you approach it. It's like that whole, like, you perceive it how you want to. If it's a negative situation, if you perceive it in a better mindset, you'll come out of it stronger. I love it. There's so many people that are still out there that haven't been able to, either haven't had someone to tell them that, like I was, or haven't been in a situation for them to understand that, or read something. So hopefully that's what this is for them.
Yeah. So this is the other question I was going to ask you. And I'll tell you mine, because I've thought about this. Okay. If your younger self met you today, what one thing would they be happy with? And what one thing would make them sad?
My mental health, I think, would make them sad. But what I'd be happy with was how often I've pushed through all the challenges in life, I think.
Funny, because like I had a very similar
Yeah.
thought process for my answer, and it was the same. It was like, I think the one thing that would make them happy would be the fact that I managed to find something I love doing and had someone pay me for it, and that I'm able to follow my passion
Yeah.
on a daily basis and help others use my passion to help others,
Yeah.
which is the key, which is the main thing. But then the sadness, I think the sad part was kind of one or two things. Like, one, the battles I've had to face to get there, because I know that my younger self was so different to the person that I was in that time. Or like, how many people have I actually, given my background and being part of the 1%, like, how much help have I actually been able to do?
Yeah. Blessing in
How
disguise.
much?
It's hard
Yeah,
to go through that in order to have a conscious about helping other people and having that drive. But I think in the long run, as long as you look after yourself, and continue to find ways to keep improving your own mental health, then I hope that in the long term you become just a very strong individual that finds a balance with your own health and also helping other people's health at the same time. The best thing about this last week being mental health week was that quote where, if it wasn't for my own mental health issues, I wouldn't be the compassionate person that I am. And I love that I'm a compassionate person. I always have been before any mental health issues that I kind of came across. I was always that person. I will always remember one girl at school. Something had happened with a couple of individual girls and they weren't happy with the situation. And I turned around and said, something like, she might be having a bad day, or I took a positive out of the negative situation. I remember so well her turning around to me and saying, "You do see the good in people, don't you?" And I remember thinking, I was taken aback by it. And I think that's the first pivotal moment in my life where I realized that perhaps I'm a little bit different to a lot of people, because I've always recognized people's feelings. I've always noticed how someone will adjust or how they've taken something out of a situation. If there's a group of people, I will always spot how it's made, whatever's happened, how it's made another person feel. I've always been so aware of it.
and that's a beautiful skill. Like that, like never
Until
ever lose that. Yeah, but never lose that. Yeah, but never lose that, because that's what makes you who you are, and that's like, that's why you have all of us, like, at work and stuff like that.
That's really powerful.
Yeah, and like, never lose that skill. It's what makes you who you are. It's what makes you the coach that you'll be, and like going forward. Like, it's why you've been so successful where you're at now and what you're doing, and why so many people gravitate towards you. So never lose that.
Yeah. Well, since I started working with him, he'd never understood why I'm so open, because I told him to follow my page and like maybe he could find some tips and whatnot, and we were talking, and he's never understood why I'm so open with people. And to him, the stuff that I put out on Instagram, he thinks that that's making me incredibly vulnerable in the sense that it will probably come back and hurt me in some form or some way. And I didn't really understand what he meant by that. And I thought, okay, maybe I've turned a blind eye to this, and maybe I should be a little bit more aware of the things that I'm putting out there and how it can impact me in the short term or the long term. But then I realized, after a conversation with someone else or whatever it was he saw what I put out there. There's always this thing of like Instagram, and you always put the highlights, you don't put the negatives out there. However, I will put the negatives out there, but I also put some highlights out there as well. But that show reel that I built, yes, it might make me vulnerable, but I don't see it as me being vulnerable, because they're experiences that I'm going through or have gone through, and I've come out of the other end. And that's formed the person that I am now. And as long as I can showcase that reel of events and allow people to understand that other people go through it, I don't see that as making me vulnerable. I was vulnerable when I went through it. That's when I was most vulnerable and probably at my lowest point. But because I got through it, I think I could battle anyone that came at me and told me that you shouldn't be talking about that, or whatever they might say that's negative to whatever post it is. But that's my show reel. There's still a side to my life that I don't show, and that's my personal relationships. And that's what won't be put out there, because that would make me vulnerable, because that's my private life. So a lot of people, I think that they know me inside out and they know who I am. And she's an incredibly open, trustworthy person. No, I'm not. I'm just a good judgment of character. I know who I can share these experiences with. I know who I can trust, who I can say certain things to, and certain things that I can't say to certain people. But that private side of my life, they don't see it. They think they see the entire part of me, but they don't. They do. And I think you're only vulnerable until you share something with someone else. Because how many instances have you thought inside, oh, I can't bring that up with someone because it's either embarrassing, or I don't know if other people feel this way about something. But then only until you open up to someone that you trust. And how many times have you had someone be like, I was wondering the same thing. That's a bit of I didn't know that could happen, or whatever it is. And suddenly you've opened up this world that, oh my God, it's a relief. It's a relief that I can talk to you about this now, instead of building up in here and thinking that I'm crazy. I'm only the one person thinking about it. You're vulnerable in the position if you've built it up inside you because of what happens up here, when you're only talking about it with yourself. That's what makes you vulnerable. Having someone you can trust, and not just one person, multiple people that you know you can speak to about different topics of life, and sharing it. As long as you trust that person, you're not vulnerable. What about you?
That's interesting, because it's I feel like I'm being vulnerable with you right now. For me, thinking about it, it seemed so when I'm listening to you and I'm listening to what you're saying, it seems like there's a negative connotation with the idea of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
That being vulnerable is a bad thing. Well, every time I open up to you, because I trust you and we have these deep conversations, I'm being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what you're going to say. I don't know how you're going to respond or how you're going to react.
Yeah.
All I know is that I trust you to hear me out, to listen to me, and to give me your attention, and create that space that's safe and secure for me to be able to be vulnerable with you.
You're vulnerable.
So I feel vulnerable every time I open up to someone.
Mm.
And not in a bad way. I just know that I'm putting myself, every time I share a part of me in a deep and meaningful way, like the conversations that we've had recently and are having today, it brings down a shield of armor.
Yeah.
I remove that piece of armor from me, because someone else then knows it.
Yeah. But can you take that piece of armor off because there is no element of judgment on my side?
It makes it easier.
Yeah. Because
it makes it much easier.
I won't judge you.
Yeah.
Whatever you say. I don't even need to have an answer. It's just you opening up about it. So yes, you are vulnerable, but I think there's a fine line of feeling vulnerable, but also, I don't know what that other side would be of the opposite of being vulnerable, but choosing what situation you want to be vulnerable in.
Yeah. But it's always a choice. You always have a choice. Whether you choose to open up and remove that armor to show this person or people that side of you, you always have a choice, and you always have a choice to keep it locked in. You always have a choice to bottle it up and let it become something else and stew inside.
The vulnerability side of it is eased off a little bit because it's been your choice.
Yeah. The degree of vulnerability, it depends on how much I share with you. only as vulnerable as far as you're willing to drop the armor.
Yes. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like this whole, that we talked about my body image issues way before. And you've probably guessed it before we even had the conversation. And then obviously I put that stuff out on Instagram, and it wasn't like, I trust the people that follow me. They follow me for a reason, but also at the same time, like I was ready to share. I was ready to drop that piece of armor and share that with people and show that it's okay to be vulnerable with people you trust, with people you trust and should know that side of you, people you want to let in.
Does it give you a, even though you're essentially being vulnerable, does it also give you another sensation of
massively
right out? Because sometimes it's not only just I'm putting this out for other people, it's me being able to write down my thoughts and just putting it out there. Sometimes that alone just allows me to feel a little bit less bogged up in here because I've been able to express myself.
It comes back to the coffee, right? It comes back to our conversation about the coffee earlier, where you said, oh, that was so good to talk that out.
Exactly.
I didn't need a response.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, you don't need to hear someone else say it. Sometimes you need to hear someone else repeat it back to you. Sometimes you need to be able to say it out loud, and it will always create a very different feeling each time. And if that feeling in that moment has felt good, you know that next time that something comes up, you can do it again because you know that it felt good in that instance, rather than feeling like you're just going a little bit loopy.
Yeah, we all know pushing yourself outside your comfort zone is what's going to push you forward. It's how we grow and develop. We train, we break down our muscle fibers by a certain amount in order to be able to get some kind of adaptation.
But being out of your comfort zone, you've got to make yourself vulnerable, because it's
exactly. But if you go too far, it can be detrimental. And there's a point where, like, I think pushing ourselves way too far out of our comfort zone when we're not ready for it is the deciding factor.
So once again, like, aware of your body and being conscious of your thoughts and feelings in your body, and you'll know.
But if I'm not ready to share that, because I'm not ready to hear what you have to say, if you're going to say anything, what's the point? When you haven't paid enough attention to yourself, and don't have that awareness, then it's hard to do that.
And always having that person, letting that person know that I don't need an answer from you, I don't need an explanation from you. It's actually probably going to make me feel worse if you actually respond with an answer. I just need to talk it out. I just need to say what's on my mind, spit it out, and that can be it. Because by doing that, it will allow me to be able to progress onto the next stage. And it doesn't mean that you've been any less of a person because you haven't given me an answer or an explanation. You've been that person that I needed just to be able to do that. Sometimes it's just going like, how many times during this pandemic have I called you and out of nowhere just cried?
I can't count anymore. But I gladly listen to it because I know my role.
Let me do it. I don't know why this is happening, but clearly I just need to lose a few tear droplets and I'll be fine. I'm fine,
but there's no need to justify it at the beginning. That's the thing. Every time you do it, you call up and you're like, I'm really sorry. I'm like, what are you apologizing for? Just let it happen. Say what you need to say. Get it off your chest. I'm on the other end of the phone.
So good.
I make coffee and I sit down comfortably and I make sure I'm ready for it. Difference.
There is, yeah. And it's so good everybody has to have a person. Everybody has to find a person that they can do that too. And sometimes that's the benefit of Instagram, because we all know how hard it is sometimes to find friendships that you can build that with in person. Like, it's taken me years to be able to do that. And the reason I have this Instagram, I want the people that don't have the friendship groups or haven't found that friendship yet to know that even though I'm a stranger, I'm here to just listen. I know it's a lot to take on, but if you've got something to say, I've had a few girls message me and just say, tell me what their issues are or whatever their problems are. And I haven't needed to give an answer. It's just allowed them just to open up briefly. And you never know, that's just to help them get on to the next day. And that's all it is sometimes. It's making it a safe zone for people to just express their thoughts, because it's bloody hard, this life. I mean, I'm sorry, but it doesn't matter how many books you read or how many conversations you have. And you, like my post the other day, like, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you can just feel so guilty about just always, it's not even complaining, it's just expressing your thoughts, and you make yourself feel as if guilty for expressing your thoughts. And don't get me wrong, I think sometimes you've literally just got to be like, just snap out of it, Charlotte, and move on. It's recognizing, is this an issue that really needs to be addressed? Or have I just made this issue because I'm just feeling a little bit down and I just can't be bothered to complete a task? You know, that's where that mental health divide is. It's, am I actually anxious? Am I going to have a panic attack? Am I feeling depressed? Am I in a situation where I need a little bit of help? Or am I just a little bit unsure about this new circumstance, this new situation? And do I just need to build a little bit of strength and confidence to get through it and move on? And there's a divide between mental health and just feeling a little bit unsure about a particular situation, because I think sometimes they can cross over and people don't recognize, actually, this is a really situation compared to, we just need to talk this out and you just need to work through it and it's going to be okay, because that is a part of life. Life isn't easy, so you've just got to work through it.
Yeah, like, I totally agree. There's, like, sometimes when you're in the deepest, darkest part of it, it's hard to be able to make that call. Yeah. But that's where knowing you've got someone who you can speak to help you go through it becomes so important. And that person can then shed light on it. And actually, that's when you then realize you can then make that call. Is this something that's really serious, or is this something that I just need to, you know, explore a little bit more and spend a little less time worrying about? You know, and I'm like you, like, the reason for having social media is that I want to connect with like-minded people, as well as I want to empower and educate others.
Looking at who I am now and looking at me from the outside and thinking, she's done this and she's done that. No, I've had to put myself in so many vulnerable situations and so many times out of my comfort zone to get to this stage of my life. And people forget that. That's why I find it so important to share my experiences, so that it allows someone else to be able to do the same thing and follow whatever they want to in life.
Embrace the process.
Exactly. I'm remembering how you got to the last success of your life. It was a process. You didn't know it at that time, but you came out of it with the results. This time you've just got to write, okay, well, what I did last time worked. I've just got to keep going through it again. And yeah, I like that.
When we're
express your feelings.
Yeah, like, it might be for yourself as an outlet. It might be to help someone else. When you, like, write a program for a client, you're writing it with the intention of getting that client to their goal and helping them achieve what they want, so they can then go on and live their life the way they want. When you have a conversation with someone, you know, like this conversation today, there was an intention here to explore some of this stuff. We didn't know where this was going to go. We didn't know what we were going to talk about. We just wanted to go deep with each other and be vulnerable and explore some interesting, some different topics. You know, and if this ever goes out and someone else hears it and it helps them go through, explore some of that stuff for them, or have a conversation, or it sparks up a conversation between different people, great.
Creation, it can be, because sometimes I need a new brain. I need another brain to be able to help me. Sometimes one brain just isn't enough. Doesn't matter.
That's why successful relationships, friendships, marriages, working relationships are teamwork. It's all teamwork. Yeah. Like, you can't, you know, yes, there are successful entrepreneurs who have done it themselves because they grafted, but I bet you along the way to get there, they've read relationships along the way.
They've listened to podcasts. Like, they haven't been spurted out the womb and then just suddenly like, oh, I'm a CEO. They've had teachers,
Yeah, when did they?
had everyone. That's it. It took 2 people to make us. So why am I trying to go through this life just by myself and just using one brain? It would just be easier for someone that just was ignorant and just naive and just didn't have any thoughts and just went through life just like day by day, just pedaling on through instead of.
But what would you achieve?
Not much other than just maybe.
Who would you be able to help?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't. I'd be. Yeah, it's not me. It's not me. Inevitably, like I just want to. Not unfortunately, but it comes with its comes with
challenges.
Challenges to wanting to help people, I guess.
Yeah, it comes with its challenges, and the challenges will help us grow.
Yeah, yeah.
Even then, you can still see it as a positive thing.
Into a big sunflower.
Exactly.
No, not sunflower, because they only like come out once a year. A tree.
Whatever you want to be.
Big, solid fucking tree with big roots.
I like that.
I'm a lot of roots to build the. Oh, I love that. I love that. That's so good. To build a big chunk of a trunk.
Exactly. There you go.
I love that. That's so good.
And every time, and then when that tree eventually falls down, they'll be able to cut it open and see the rings, and see all the different stories and how many years it took to get there and all of that.
And new branches, different pathways, and then
exactly
the flowers or whatever's on the end of the branch is your success or your results. All the roots circulating, that's the process.
And then all the animals you housed and you fed and you looked after and sheltered.
Yes. I love that. On that note, I love that. That's such a good analogy. If we've got anything out of this chat, it's that we're all true.